Hello and welcome to Grand Prix Atlanta. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm being joined by Zach Hill. We are ready for round 12. This should be a good one. Ben Stark against Owen Turtenwald, number 10 in the world versus number 5 in the world. They're both picked up 2 losses in the sealed deck yesterday, but these are the last 2 men standing from what I've been calling the pod of death. Hall of Famer Paulo Vitor Damarosa, Conley Woods, lots of good players at that table. But these guys, one of them gets to stay in top 8 contention. One of them is just playing for a couple of bucks the rest of the day.
Randy, this is a card that you and I talked a lot about yesterday. Mogus's Warhound, one of the
Indeed.
premier uncommons. Great, one of the cheapest bestow effects you have in the format at 3 mana. Owen running it out on turn 2, that signals a very aggressive start from Owen.
Yeah, and Ben Stark with the Sigiled Starfish, another very fine card to build your deck around, but also signaling a very different stand from a tempo point of view.
Yeah, and you notice Ben not blocking there, doesn't want to run into one of a million tricks from the Warhound. That's the card that you were saying is the card you wanted to open the most in Journey into Nyx. That's a Prophetic Flame Speaker.
Wow.
A pretty powerful start from Owen's
Mogi's
side.
Warhound into Prophetic Flame Speaker. It's really hard to get both of those in your deck, because it means one of them got passed to you. You know you're in the right color when you get past either one of those cards. You take a red card and then get past one of those.
Yeah, it did look like the Flame Speaker bit the dust, but Owen continuing to apply pressure now with, wow, what a start from Owen. We've heard a lot of varied opinions on Sigiled Starfish. Everyone sort of agrees that it's good, but we heard a deck tech from the Pro Tour saying, you know, maybe you don't want more than one in your deck, period. Other people I see, you know, Guillaume Wafo-Tapa, we saw it take it, pick 1 and pick 2, very excited about it.
Where do you have it in your blue common rankings?
I've got it second behind Warwing Siren.
Okay.
I used to have it first, but the more I played with it, it's still unbelievable. But unlike a Merfolk Looter, it can't actually alter the contents of the cards already in your hand. And though it's an 0-3 and a pretty good blocker, it's so good that you rarely want to block like a 2-1 in any color that, you know, could have a trick at all. So I think it's a very, very good card, but I like the Siren a bit better than the Starfish.
I guess Hubris is the other card I've heard some people put above it in their pick orders.
I can see Hubris.
Cyclops heads into the red zone alongside the Warhound. Ben Stark lines up a trade for the Cyclops.
And if you're Ben Stark, you know, you're not too sad about Owen using a bunch of tricks there with the Cyclops, just because at some point the Warhound's going to have to attack. If you run Owen out of tricks, you get a free card.
Sure.
If you're able to put a blocker in the way.
All right, so God's Willing saves the Cyclops. Ben mills himself for 4.
So far, every card we've seen from Owen's side of the board is between like a first and fourth pick.
Fair.
Pretty solid deck, it looks like, from Owen.
And Lagana Band Elder. Warhound's even an enchantment creature, gaining Owen 3 life.
I'm just
Rye from Ben Stark.
I'm looking at Owen's cards. I mean, he's got Heliod's Emissary on top of all of this. He's got, like we've talked about, the God's Willing, Hopeful Eidolon, a lot of the cards that you're just really looking to get out of white from Theros. He's actually base white. He has 10 plains, 7 mountains, so that Flame Speaker, a little difficult to cast, but I think the card's just so powerful.
You're still going to run it. Insatiable Harpy was Ben Stark's play.
Double Akroan Skyguard, also in Owen's deck. I mean, this is basically exactly what you're looking for out of a red-white deck, and he's got Forge Stoker Dragon.
What?
To cap off what, you know, an excellent aggressive card. So I definitely understand why Owen is playing for undefeated in this draft.
All right, well, he keeps turning them sideways. Ill-Tempered Cyclops, Mogi's Warhound, Lagana Band Elder all head into the red zone. Ben lines up an Insatiable Harpy trade. I think he's anticipating yet another combat trick. We've been talking all day about how many different kinds of tricks red-white can have, but like you said, Ben needs to, he's going to have to slog through them at some point. He's got to preserve what amount of his life till he can, and Battle-Wise Valor is the trick this time. So the Elder will survive this combat. Owen gets a scry. It looks like he scries to the bottom.
Ben's still able to gain a little bit of life off that Harpy, stabilize
Net
a little
loss
bit.
of 3.
He's got a lot of threats on Owen's side of the board though to deal with, but Ben has a copy of Extinguish All Hope in his deck.
Wow, he just left Island on top.
That
I saw
might be
him
what he's
scry
going
with the
to.
Starfish. Island on top, and Rise of the Eagles.
So not quite an extinguish, but those two 2/2s still able to block both Elder and the Warhound profitably, as well as the other 2/2 if Owen doesn't get a 5th land.
Quick scry to the bottom. Owen draws. I think I saw Mountain.
Yeah. And he
Yeah,
does have that
turn him
5th
sideways.
land to activate the ability.
So Fortifier can defend itself from a trade with a 2/2. How do you block here if you're Ben? 10 points of life left.
I think you block the, the Fortifier with the Starfish. You block Mogis Warhound and Lagana Band Elder with your other 2/2s. You need to preserve your life total here, and if he's using a trick to kill your Starfish, that means you get to neutralize the 3/2 and the 2/2, saving yourself quite a bit of life and helping you stabilize on this board.
Yeah, I like it. And if he's got a trick to, save the Elder or whatnot, well, that's better than him using the trick to kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, at this point, if he trades a bird for a trick and fends off a turn's worth of damage, that makes sense. I mean, I guess he could double block Cyclops, but that doesn't seem right. It seems like you just need to trade.
Yeah, and I think
Take the Cyclops.
if you know you're drawing to extinguish all hope, you want to get the enchantment creature off the battlefield. I mean, it would kind of be theoretically nice to keep your 2 birds there, but yeah, I mean, you've got to block this turn or you're literally dead. So we see him looking for that double block on the Cyclops, though.
He must not have Extinguish All Hope in his hand. Well, I mean, he would have placed the last turn, but he's not playing to top deck it.
Right.
Because otherwise, I'm with you. He would want to kill the Warhound.
The thing about this double block is now any trick
destroys
just
you.
Absolutely annihilates you. Is
he saying I can't beat a trick?
Maybe so.
Oh, no, he goes with your block. All right, so that's a trade, a bounce, and a trade. He's taking the Cyclops hit.
The thing is, if you load up on Cyclops, Cyclops has trample. So in addition to getting blown out and losing all your creatures, you still take so much damage that it's going to be hard to recover next turn.
Right. Now Owen is thinking. Certainly representing a trick. But no. 2 trades and a bounce. 3 damage to Ben Stark, who will fall to 7. Gets to scry. Ooh, Owen said go. No play with that 5 mana. Oh, upkeep Fall of the Hammer. Or what? Tapped out Fall of the Hammer. Goes ahead and kills the Starfish after the scry. He did not want Ben to know that was happening when Ben made his scry decision.
Right. The reason that happens is sometimes you scry, you're like, okay, well, I'll be able to scry next turn, so maybe I'll have an extra land. Right. It's a small amount of information, but it's meaningful information.
Riptide puts the Cyclops on top of Owen's library. Fortifier gets in for 2. Ben down to 5. Is that Meletus Astronomer? 1/3, and he's got Aqueous Form to target it. Gets to look at 3 cards, keep an enchantment. Looks like a whiff.
Going through Ben's deck, he's got a decent number of enchantments. He's got stuff like Crystalline Nautilus, Archetype of Finality, but not just full of enchantment creatures. Sure. He's also got a Whitewater Naiads that he.
Still, I mean, 1/3 for 2 isn't terrible. Yeah, especially in a defensive deck like the one Ben appears to have.
Exactly.
Cyclops came back down after Owen redrew it. Fortifier is being held off by the Astronomer. Ben could attack unblockable and scry thanks to the Aqueous Form, but he needs to play defense. So that Astronomer stays back.
Astronomer, a nice blocker for the Fortifier.
For Fortifier, not so much for the Cyclops. Owen does not have the 6th land for Monstrous, though. That's the good news.
And this is a weird situation for Ben to be in, because Owen missing his 6th land drop, which he clearly wants, but also having 2 cards in hand.
Right, what are they? They're not land.
And they're probably not combat tricks either, because he would have cast them last turn on the double block with the Rise of Eagles.
6? Archetype of Finality.
So that represents an ability to get the Cyclops off the board if Owen doesn't have another land.
He tramples over. It's a 2/3?
Right.
So the trample damage is lethal.
I guess if Owen has a land, right?
If Owen comes up with his land, well, I guess, yeah, there's 2 points of trample either way. 6th land looks lethal to me, but Owen must not have it.
So not any obvious, definitely doesn't have the land, doesn't clearly have a trick that would push for it for lethal, or the attack would just be obvious.
He's attacking. Is this going to be Cyclops trading? All right, how do you block if you're Ben Stark?
Well, part of it depends on whether or not I have Triton Tactics or Aerial Formation in my hand.
Okay. I mean, all your creatures have Death Touch, so everything. Owen's creatures die here, barring First Strike. The Johnny's Presence.
Wow.
The Johnny's Presence. Indestructible is huge. 1 point of trample damage, and yep. Wow. Johnny's Presence was a nice trick to have there.
Yeah, that is rock solid, especially when all your opponent's creatures have Death Touch. You're saying, okay, well, that's good, but none of them can actually kill my creatures this turn.
Indeed.
In Ben's deck, he has a decent amount of removal I'm looking for. He's got 2 copies of Feast of Dreams. He's got a lot of the cards you want. Bile Blight, another premier one, but just wasn't
I think
seeing
Bile Blight
any
is
of those cards.
what killed the Flame Speaker. All right, live look in. Pierre Dejean on the left of your screen is in game 1 here against Jacob Wilson. Both players are a little bit below the bubble for getting to play the Players' Championship this year. They want to go to Worlds. They need to get some more points somewhere.
And
Wilson seems to have a Crowan Mastiff and, oh, is that Eidolon of Countless Battles?
it's Eidolon of Countless Battles attached to a
Is that a Hopeful Eidolon?
Hopeful Eidolon with lifelink, yeah. So a pretty good combination there with 2 creatures
Wilson's
and an aura
on
on the
20.
battlefield.
Dejean's on 4. So Wilson's been doing some good work here.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Jacob Wilson's deck looks awesome.
And as if Elspeth needed to be more powerful, it's pretty good when you have an Eidolon of Countless Battles bestowed to a creature with lifelink, a hopeful Eidolon. Wilson
give that guy
gleefully
+3/+3.
attacking.
Yeah. Dejean is definitely in chump block mode.
And Wilson also
Oh, is that
threatening.
actually a trade?
Yeah,
Okay.
because of the archetype. And then
Oh, the archetype, of course. Death Touch.
but Wilson is setting up a Crowan Mastiff tap, and yeah. Not
Pierre
a lot of ways
Dejean
to beat that.
scoops him up. So Jacob Wilson showing he can play with the 40 card decks too. he drafted a lot of constructed cards, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Jacob's Pro Tour top 8 is in Modern, obviously, but he's had success at limited GPs in the past. And yeah, if he wants to go to Worlds, he's got to get some points.
And Elspeth helping him out.
Definitely.
In doing that. I mean, yeah, we've seen some pretty powerful decks here in the feature match area between Owen's red first pick bomb monstrosity, Ben Stark, no slouch either. A lot of good removal spells, good card advantage. And then, yeah, Wilson with every single white card you could want to draft.
Yeah, those guys are, Wilson is X2. Wilson and Dejean. Believe they're playing to win their pod. Came in with 2 losses. Oh, yeah, there's a good look at Ben Stark. Currently number 10. He's been sliding down a little bit. You see the 61 pro points last season, only 44 so far this season. Still got a pro tour to go, but yeah, people were speculating what's the line for Worlds. People are saying if 49 might get in. You're going to get at least 3 just for showing up to Portland. Even if he scrubs out, he gets at least 3. So it's kind of on 47. I don't think 47 is going to be good enough. I think, 48, 49, maybe 50. The line moved 10 points at the most recent Pro Tour, but that was a lot. Anyway, 4 top 8s. He's in the Hall of Fame. 13 Grand Prix top 8s, including 4 so far this season. So in order to get points, we keep talking about points, he needs a top 8. His top 5 GP finishes so far, 4 top 8s and a top 16. So he has to upgrade that top 16 if he wants to add to that 44-point total.
And what that basically means for him at this tournament is that he needs to win out.
Pretty much. There's Owen Turtenwald, currently number 5. Only 3 Grand Prix top 8s this season, but 2 wins. So that 52 is pretty good for him. The former Player of the Year having a fine season, sitting in 5th place this year. 52, pretty good for Worlds. Here's the thing, though. I talked to him, and, he's kind of quiet about it because you're talking to a bunch of guys that have a bunch of specific goals. You know what he really wants?
What is that?
He wants to play on the American team at the World Magic Cup. That's, I think, the next goal for him. Like, he's locked Platinum. He's all but locked Worlds. I mean, mathematically he hasn't locked it, but he's in. That's tough, though. If you want to play for Team USA at the World Magic Cup, he has to get ahead of Reed Duke. Like, you have to win Player of the Year and, win the Pro Tour, or maybe, go win a qualifier, but that's the next tournament he's got his eyes on. That's the goal he's got. For now, though, it's just like, my goal is to win this tournament.
And that's the way you've got to look at it. I mean, if you're
Agreed. And all of these guys, hanging out with your buddies playing Magic all day is kind of its own reward.
What's that? A return phalanx over there from Ben Stark,
Indeed.
able to thwart any 2/2s that Owen may be able to put on the battlefield.
All right, turn 2 Loyal Pegasus. Presumably just came off the top of Owen's deck. Won't be able to attack yet.
Interestingly, he's got an Akroan Skyguard in his hand that he opted not to cast on the second turn. So
Interesting.
wanting to get that Loyal Pegasus, I guess, down earlier.
Also allows him to play Skyguard with mana up for a trick. I don't know if he actually has one, but he certainly showed Ajani's presence last game.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Making your opponent even respect the threat of the trick, because being able to cast a God's Willing or a Ajani's Presence in response to a removal spell on the Skyguard sets you up really, really well for a powerful offense.
Right. Aha, Ben Stark just activates the Phalanx. He's like, you don't have any ground creatures for me to block? I'm coming in. Take 3.
Phalanx actually, when I draft blue-black, it is exactly what my blue-black decks want. A way to stabilize the ground, threaten early to put your opponent on the back foot if they don't have a pretty aggressive draw. Definitely not a card that would have changed the pace of Game 1 dramatically had Ben seen it.
True. Yeah, Mogi's Warhound not as good when there's Phalanx on the other side. Owen is thinking about this? Is he thinking like block and a trick? He's definitely representing a trick. Yeah, he sticks the Skyguard in front. Ajani's Presence means +1/+1 from the Presence and Indestructible, +1/+1 counter from the Heroic, so that's a trade. Yeah, that seems like a great play for Owen.
Yeah, really the only card that blows Owen out there is an Eye Gouge. You know, a Boon of Erebos just basically bounces off the Ajani's Presence, but saves Owen some life. So yeah, I really like that block that turn.
Yeah, now he's got 4 power worth of flyers coming over, and Ben Stark missed a land drop despite having the Starfish.
Oh, man. And that was a big turn for Ben. Now he's taking 4 points in the air, falling to 12. That's 3 attacks, and that Skyguard only going to get bigger.
I mean, it's certainly not as good without 2 packs of Theros in the draft. I mean, it's definitely a card that has gone down with the introduction of Journey into Nyx into the draft format, but you know what? Still gets the job done.
Yeah, exactly. Unlike a card like Wingsteed Rider, where you can even put like a bad enchantment on it, it's attacking for 4 or 5 points. Skyguard, you really want to be bestowing a powerful creature onto it, and there's just 1 fewer pack of those.
Exactly. Yeah, but I mean, it goes from, oh my god, awesome, to playable.
Right. And still quite good, I'd say. Just, you know, not necessarily, you know, an automatic first pick best white common like it was when the set came out.
All right, well, Ben Stark plays an Insatiable Harpy, capable of blocking either of Owen's attackers, and he just takes it. Not interested in blocking while Owen's got 6 mana untapped.
Every single time we look at Owen's side of the board, just even medium combat tricks like Rise to the Challenge, just completely devastating when your board is Skyguard, Loyal Pegasus, and Prophetic Flamespeaker. Just not a lot of good blocks for Ben.
Yeah, you wanna know how to draft Owen's deck? The trick is to open Flamespeaker and then get past Mogi's Warhound. You do that, you too can be ranked number 5 in the world and heading into the last draft with live for top 8.
And, you know, maybe if you're Ben, you're thinking, okay, I've got to deal with these small flyers. Maybe I can stabilize. Owen this turn top decks Forge Stoker Dragon. Just, you know, nice opens, Owen. You know, not a lot you can say there.
You can't open all of them. You only get 3 opens.
That's true.
He had to get past some of these.
Well, and it is easy to look at a deck this good and say, like, okay, you were pretty fortunate, but you do have to position yourself reading the signals very effectively in order to be, you know, able to opt into all these extremely powerful cards coming your way. You know, Owen read the draft, knew what colors were open, and realized how to capitalize on them.
Huh. Why play a dragon when you can bestow Heliod's Emissary onto your Prophetic Flamespeaker?
It's a tapping a blocker and a cool 8 damage, plus 4 more points in the air. So Whitewater Naiads now basically being reduced to chump blocking, and still Stark taking 4 this turn. That is powerful.
I guess Extinguish All Hope can get him out of this?
Yes.
I'm trying to think if Ben has outs. I don't know if Owen knows about the Extinguish All Hope. Probably not, because Ben finished his round first. You know, and it was clearly, you know, people were respecting scouting, and, you know, nobody was talking openly about their decks. So Owen may not know about Extinguish All Hopes. Flamespeaker triggers. Doesn't get him much.
So right, with Ben at 2, he can attack with Harpy in the air, go to 4, Extinguish All Hope, leaving Owen with a 3/3, which could tap. Yeah, even if Owen had a blocker, which he couldn't because Whitewater Naiads dies, it still gives him a turn.
It says go.
But doesn't have it.
Does not appear to.
Griptide could allow him to not have to tap his blockers, which would give the Harpy the ability to block, trading with one of the flyers and keeping Ben alive. But
Yeah, he basically has to bounce the Flame Speaker before it can attack and trigger the Heliod's Emissary.
yeah, and that's exactly what we see.
But then the Emissary just attacks.
Oh, right, because of the way Summoning Sickness works.
It does not have Summoning Sickness. It just
Exactly.
attacks here. So Ben needs another trick. Is he can attack, tap down the Harpy, and there's 4 power worth of flyers.
Is the play to just hope your opponent
Yeah,
doesn't know it can
that
attack?
was the play. I mean, he's got nothing else to play for. Owen smiling about it. It's like, yeah, you're just dead, right? Go ahead, you're going to attack? Yeah, okay, fine, I'm just dead. You're right. Owen Turnwald, wow, that deck looks spectacular.
That's one of the better decks that I've seen in a pot. I mean,
I agree.
Oh,
Now
and
they start
Cayman-
revealing. Here's what I had. Did Ben just go get his extinguish all hope? This is what I was hoping for. This
I
is
mean,
my out.
a pretty strong pod, but Owen, Ben, both managing to capitalize
Yeah.
on decks, but only one player
skill
can
game.
emerge. Yeah, it really
is a skill game. Here's the upcoming webcast schedule. Next weekend, tune in for Theros block constructed action. Certainly be interesting to see what people do now that the Pro Tour has happened and people have access to all those deck lists. Following that up in a couple of weeks, a pair of standard Grand Prix in Moscow and then Chicago. It's going to be double Theros block limited happening in Washington, D.C. and Milan at the end of June. Then one more modern GP happening the weekend before the Pro Tour. And the big one, I know I'm looking forward to it, Pro Tour Magic 2015 in Portland right at the beginning of August. That will be the last event of this Pro Tour season. Everybody locks in their levels, worlds. We get to have a Pro Tour. Going to be awesome.
Yeah, another thing I'm just excited about looking at the schedule, and this has been true for a while, but I remember when you started playing Grand Prix, and basically everything was the same format for a while. I love that every weekend there's basically a different format, different skills being celebrated, new cards, new strategies, and as a guy that loves Constructed, I can't wait to see what people brew up in Modern.
All right, well, here's Pierre Desjardins versus Jacob Wilson. We saw Jacob win the first game with just an avalanche of rares. Well, good cards. Elspeth's rare.
And it looks like Wilson not just relying on the power of his rares, a Crowan Mastiff, extremely powerful card, and then Ordeal on a Nessian Courser, 4/4, 5/5 next turn, makes it really, really hard to block. Dejan needs a removal spell, or he's not going to be able to race in the air with, against 10 extra life.
Yeah, the 10 life hurts, but he's trying to race. I mean, Wilson's at 9. It's going to take 2 turns for that Ordeal to trigger. I'm not sure. Oh. Unravel the Ether. Shuffle in your Nyxborn Triton. I am not interested in taking 7 damage. I will settle for 5.
And
it looks like Jacob's pinched on white mana. That Mastiff hasn't been able to do a good job of blocking things because there's only the 1 plains.
Yeah, and normally you aren't just that excited to block with a Mastiff there against a Burnished Heart, but you're not going to be able to tie up your white mana all the time. But an Eye Gouge means that Dejan's able to keep the heart on the table. Burnished Heart.
Worst case scenario, Mastiff has lowered itself to trading for a Burnished Heart, and it can't even do that.
Right, Wilson falling to 6, so if Dejan doesn't have any tricks, he's able to survive one more attack and potentially get that the Ordeal to fire.
Right. That's the other reason that Mastiff block is actually quite a good play. Smart play. It does buy him just enough time based on what's on board to pop his Ordeal. Oath Sworn off the top. I assume there's no land. He sure looks pinched on land.
It looks like he does have a hopeful Eidolon. So the question here, I think, if you're Wilson, is saying,
up and attack.
Well, the challenge there is just that your opponent has 4 untapped mana, including a blue. I think you have to kind of go for it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're at 6, your opponent's at 16. If Dejan has a Griptide or a Voyage's End or something along those lines, you just lose. Like, you get to assume, if you're Jacob Wilson, that your opponent doesn't have those tricks, because if he does, the game's over and you're playing game 3 and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, if you attack, get an extra counter on your Courser and play a blocker, that does mean that your opponent would have to have both a removal spell for your blocker and a pump spell to kill you, whereas if you commit to going all in on the Courser, your opponent doesn't have to deal with
You really think he can win that game? He's not going to take the Courser hit. He's going to bounce it, right? You're not going to pop the Ordeal in this hypothetical. If you put your opponent on, Voyage's End, something along those lines. Courser's going to be in your hand. Ordeal's going to be in the graveyard, having accomplished not very much. You really think just merely playing a blocker here? I don't see it.
Well,
I don't think Jacob can play around a trick, so I would have been very tempted to go all in and just hopeful Eidolon.
Looks like he doesn't, though, and is playing the Setessan Oathsworn. It's also possible that it's just not Hopeful Eidolon in his hand, and
He can miss all, yeah.
miss Saw, but he does opt to play a blocker there, and actually, Dejan sacrificing Burnished Heart.
Huh. Well, it's not going to get through. I mean, Wilson's representing a trick. If he points any, single white instant at the Oathsworn, it would just eat Burnished Heart anyway. So Dejan thins his library, fixes his mana. He's planning to win with 2 attacks in the air. Ordeal is going to mess with that plan.
7 also would give him enough mana to bestow Thassa's Emissary or Erebos' Emissary, if that's what's in his hand. So the extra mana could theoretically threaten lethal this turn if he has one of those cards.
Nope. 3 in the air. Wilson down to 3, but he is poised to gain 10 from Ordeal Affiliad.
And the fact that Wilson saw that Dejan wasn't able to answer the Nessian Courser attack with 4 mana up kind of signals to Wilson, I think, that the coast is clear for Eidolon this turn.
Pinned to the earth, but that's fine.
Yeah, you still get your 10 life.
Right.
And potentially, with the Eidolon, you still would deal a point of damage if you wanted to.
If he really does have full Eidolon, you put it on the Oathsworn. Turn it into a 4/4 that can now beat up a Grim Guardian. Oh, is that Johnny's presence just for value?
Yeah, and that makes the Oathsworn a lot bigger, so that when it gets lifelink, that's even more damage. And Wilson, even though he's at 1, he is about to gain a absurd amount of life this turn.
Nullify on the Hopeful Eidolon.
So even through that Nullify, he's going to go up from a precarious 1 to a healthy 11, and is going to be attacking for 5 with Dejan only at 11 life.
Okay, just attack, right?
That's what I think. Yeah, I can't see any reason. I mean, you need the you need the Ordeal to crack no matter what.
Right.
And I don't think you want your Oathsworn back trying to block a 1/4. I remember we were playtesting the Ordeals. Helia just kept having a bigger and bigger life rider on it. We're like, what amount of life is worth about 2 cards or 3 targeted damage? What about 10? Yeah, sure. The science of Magic development.
Sure.
So Dejan now the one kind of with his back against the wall. 6 life, 5 from the Oathsworn, so anything makes that lethal. He's going to need at least, 3 attacks in order to put Wilson down, or a lot of enchantments on that Grim Guardian.
Oh, how about another pin to the earth? And another flyer. Prescient Chimera comes down. So now he's got 6 in the air, and Wilson's on 6.
That is exactly what Dejan needed, doubling the clock in the air. Yeah.
He's now a did he say check? He's supposed to say check there, right? He's threatening lethal, and he thwarted the Oathsworn. Well, here's Wingsteed Rider. Okay. It's at least a flying blocker.
Which can deal with the Chorus of the Tides, but not Prescient Chimera. And that was just one of the best possible turns Dejan could have.
Shut down the Oathsworn and played a second flyer. Yeah, Wilson clearly just has to put Wingsteed Rider in front of Chorus of Tides. Take the trade, take the 3 damage.
And you saw Wilson with a come at me gesture. I think he's kind of thinking, okay, I might end up losing this one.
Well, if he has a trick, can he take down the Chimera? If
Probably.
he has a trick, okay.
Oh, wow. Oh, brutal.
Pharika's Cure as a response, killing the Wingsteed Rider before it can get any counters. And which means both of Dejan's creatures stay alive. And that should do it.
Yeah, and going up to 8 life with 2 flying attackers, no flying blockers on Wilson's side of the board.
Wow. That's a good game.
Yeah, it was a great game. Even Elspeth wouldn't have saved him there because the 2 attackers.
Power.
Exactly.
On to game 3.
Well, we definitely saw the better half of Jacob's deck game 1. Still a lot of really powerful cards, a lot of powerful tricks.
That half looked fine.
Yeah, it didn't look bad.
Like, it's not like he played any bad cards.
Yeah.
He got his Hopeful Eidolon nullified is what happened.
Exactly.
If it wasn't for the nullify on the Hopeful Eidolon, I think Wilson wins that game.
It looked like he was a little constrained on mana earlier, too, which didn't let him leverage the Crowan Massive to help stop those flyers.
Yes. There's Jacob Wilson's profile. He's still a gold pro at this point. In addition to talking about Worlds, he still hasn't clinched platinum. You see 40 points. He needs 45. He's going to get 3 just for showing up in Portland, so he's got to go 2 against the minimum between now and the end of that Pro Tour. So likely to be a platinum pro, reaping all those benefits next year, but still a little bit work left to do. The 1 Pro Tour top 8, that was in Valencia, Pro Tour Born of the Gods. 3 Grand Prix top 8s, including the win in Chicago a couple of years ago. Yeah, runner-up at the last PT.
When this is a big, big tournament for Wilson and a big, big match. I mean, 2 pro points that, you know, you achieve that and more by just making the top 8, you know, top 16 finish is solid, although I don't know what his non-top 8 finishes are. He's probably had some pretty good ones to have 40 pro points, but, you know.
Well, you get 26 for finishing second at the Pro Tour. So, I mean, that's where a lot of his are from. I think it's 20, maybe it's 24 for finishing second. It's 20 for top 8, and then 22, then 24. It's 24. So he's only got 16 others. That's 6 from PTs. He's got like 10. You know, if I had to guess, I would guess he's still got like a GP top 64 or something. Like maybe he can get those 2 points for the top 16. Top 8, I think, would definitely clinch platinum status for him. Although he's in a similar situation to William Jensen, where ideally you want to do more than just clinch that you will get platinum. You want to level up before Portland and get the benefits right away.
Exactly, yeah.
Free airfare, free hotel, and a, what is it, $2,500 fee?
Yeah, a giant appearance fee. I mean, it's, you know, we talk about all these levels, though they're in the abstract, but I mean, they represent a lot of money for a core group of players. And, yeah, I mean, hotel, airline benefits, I mean, just all adds up, especially if this is what you're doing basically as your career. I mean, you know, the difference between gold and platinum I've heard is described, you know, between $20,000 and $25,000. I mean, that is a big level up.
Yeah, and that's before you start talking about invites to Worlds.
Right.
That's just the benefits.
Yeah, and being able to play at Worlds is just an absurd tournament. I mean, you know, you go to a Grand Prix, you're competing against 1,300 to, in Richmond, 4,000 other players. Pro Tour, you're competing against 300-400 other players. Worlds, you know, it's the best 24 players in the world.
Yep.
You know, which makes for some amazing magic and also makes it quite a bit easier for you as a player to really run away with some money in pro points. Yeah,
to get 5 points right now, Wilson probably has to win the GP. Maybe second place is good enough.
Do you happen to know how high up he is to clinch that Canadian World Magic Cup slot? I mean, he's got to be up there, right?
Hayne is ahead of him.
Okay.
McLaren is ahead of him. Hayne, I believe, is on 44 points, so within striking range. McLaren is in the 40s somewhere as well. So it's definitely a relevant race.
When you were talking about how Owen wanted to be able to play on kind of the World Magic Cup team, but yeah, that's one of the things you talk to a lot of pros. I mean, these slots on the national team are really, you know, rare slots, really sacred slots, and the tournament itself is just a ton of fun. I mean, there's players from 70 countries playing. You know, again, a pretty big prize pool. So being able to get a slot on that team is a huge
and the way that works
well.
for every country that plays, and there's like 70 countries, whatever pro has the most pro points for the season gets to be the captain, and then the other spots are given out through qualifier tournaments. So those, I believe that schedule is probably posted on the website by now.
I know I'm going to be playing in some World Magic Cup.
Have you looked up the dates? Oh, it looks like Dejon's going to go down to 6. Do you know where the U.S. qualifiers are?
I don't quite remember, but I know they're geographically distributed such that, you know, I mean, the
U.S.
is a big
teams,
country.
right? So there's three of these tournaments?
Exactly.
WMCQs.
I'll have to break a format or two.
Sure. You traveling from them? They're on different weekends, or are they all on the same weekend?
I think they're on different weekends.
That's what I think, yeah.
I think they're back to back.
Are you going to travel? Are you going to try to hit more than one of them?
I want it bad. You know, I'm doing this coverage
awesome
thing.
Tournament.
Yeah, exactly. And I can start asking Jerry Thompson for deck lists again.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know.
Jerry Thompson has ended his internship. He's out of R&D again, just like you.
We've got to have some former R&D representation at the top tables. I guess Chapin's win last time counted.
Chapin did the internship gig a long time ago.
Still haven't had a full-timer win a Pro Tour yet, though, I don't think.
We now have had former R&D go back and win a Pro Tour, though. That's been done. Sedge Scorpion chipping away for Jacob Wilson. Dejon kept 6. Wilson led with a Sedge Scorpion, and only 1 land for Pierre Dejon. Does have Freakus chosen, so, I mean, he's not going to get completely run over, but Wilson simply moves his offense to the air. Still no second land for Dejon. Oh,
wow.
Eidolon of Countless Battles. Smash. what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage in the air. Yeah, I can eye gouge your Scorpion, which shrinks the guy. Yeah. Dajon just extends the hand. That's fairly anticlimactic. Too bad we didn't get a real game, but Jacob Wilson, 10-2, very much in it. Now he basically sits down at a draft pod where the winner makes top 8.
You know, you're sitting there and wondering if, why did